Hello there, Lunar Squadron, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer breakdown. Today, we will be breaking down the final Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer. The road to Jedi Survivor has been a long one and packed with anticipation. We've broken down a lot of trailers for you all, and we're so excited to break down the final trailer. Nick and I were so excited that we stayed up until 4 to 5 to 6 a.m. I think we're filming this at about 5:30 to 6 right now, so please bear with us if we miss any details here, because we are running on pure fumes and excitement at this point. But with that said, we are so very excited to dig into this one because, as many of you have acknowledged, this trailer is absolutely packed full of hype, guys. We are very much loving this trailer and cannot wait to dig into it with you all. That said, before we dig into it, if you are new to the channel, we would absolutely love to have you. All you have to do is hit that little red subscribe button and make sure to click the bell notification button right next to it, as it'll let you know every single time that Nick and I post the latest and greatest Star Wars Jedi Survivor content on YouTube. And you're going to want to make sure to keep up to date with the channel, because we're going to be covering this game up to and through release with all of the details that you need to know about this awesome Star Wars game. That said, Nick, you ready to talk all things final trailer here?
I am equally as tired as I am excited to talk about this trailer, so yes.
All right, let's do it, guys. Alright guys, we've broken down enough trailers together by now. You guys all know the drill. I'm going to be scrubbing through the trailer frame by frame, and Nick and I are going to be talking about all of the great details that we see throughout. Nick, why don't you kick us off with the first scene that we see in this trailer?
Yeah, so we see Cal laying face down in some sand. It looks like he's taken some damage here. He's not feeling too great. He slowly is getting up. And it looks like, Andreas, he is in the middle of a sandstorm. And if I had to guess, this sequence takes place perhaps shortly after that bridge collapse sequence that we saw from one of the previous gameplay trailers. That takes place in a very similar looking environment. Now, if you've seen our planet breakdown, our planet speculation for the planet of Jeddah that we believe to be in Jedi Survivor, we believe that this sandstorm takes place on the planet of Jeddah. So we believe this sequence right here, Andreas, is taking place on Jeddah, where Cal is getting up in the middle of a very aggressive sandstorm.
Yeah, and we'll see this color palette here with the sandstorm. It's like this bright orange color palette. We're going to see this later on in the trailer as well. We've seen it before. I totally agree with you, Nick. I think this is a trademark of Jeddah at this point. I think when we see this bright orange sandstorm, we know that we're dealing with Jeddah. And Nick, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Jeddah is going to be a common theme throughout this trailer, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of places and locations throughout this trailer, this final gameplay trailer, where we believe the evidence strongly suggests we are dealing with Jeddah here, and a lot of sequences from Jeddah throughout this trailer. So yes, you are correct in that assumption. Speaking of, this is the first one that we believe, or the second one, I guess I should say, that we believe is a clear-cut indication that this is taking place on Jeddah. If you take a look, we are looking at some stormtroopers. They're firing their E11 blasters at Cal. And there are some striking features in the background, aren't there, Andreas, that are very reminiscent that we've talked about in the past.
Yes, I think this is the same exact scene as the sequence that we've seen in the past. In this room, as you can see, there are two Jedi statues in the back. You can see a statue of a robed individual holding a lightsaber. I believe this is a Jedi statue. This is also a trademark feature of Jeddah. We see this in Rogue One with that giant statue that had fallen. And I think these are more indicators that we are going to be going to Jeddah. And if we needed even more confirmation at this point that we're going to be headed to Jeddah, look no further than the hieroglyphics on the back of the wall here behind Cal. Nick, these hieroglyphics are actually a trademark of Jeddah, right?
Yes, these are called Domabesh, and these are featured almost exclusively. There are a few other locations throughout the galaxy that these are featured, but these are featured almost exclusively to the planet of Jeddah. These are called Domabesh. It's a different type of language within the Star Wars universe. This is not Arabesh. Also, that previous scene, Andreas, with those two Jedi statues and those rock features on the back, this is the exact same location where we see Marin come in the last gameplay trailer, where she has her spear and then she like force pushes or magic pushes something, one of the troopers. I have a feeling this is all coming from this same scene here, because this is clearly the same location where we see Marin from the previous gameplay trailer.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. And as we saw in that sequence, there was more Domabesh on the walls. Here, we're just getting further Domabesh. And just to give you all some background on Domabesh, Domabesh was a language, a fictional language, which was created for Rogue One, specifically for Jeddah. This is a language which is intended to predate Arabesh. It really drives home the point that Jeddah has history long before many places throughout the galaxy far, far away, that Jeddah is a place that has thousands and thousands and thousands of years of rich history, and this is a place that Jedi go to find their relationship with the Force, and it has a lot of ancient secrets. Now, it is almost pointless to translate Domabesh because a lot of Domabesh is so ancient that even if you are carrying a translator, it's going to translate as gibberish, and that's why we don't really bother translating a lot of the Domabesh stuff throughout the game, because it would just be gibberish. It is random characters, so that is the case here as well. And we are just going to go through. Nick, what planet can we kind of make an educated guess that this is here?
Well, Andreas, the topography and overall look of this planet looks an awful lot like, you guessed it, Jeddah. Again, we believe we are dealing with the planet of Jeddah. If you take a look, if you pull up Rogue One on Disney Plus right now and you go through all of the Jeddah sequences, you will find pretty much exactly what this looks like here on the screen here. The same topography, the same overall look, the same color of the sky. We see this from the previous gameplay trailers, the previous stuff that we've speculated and found evidence for, suggesting that this is Jeddah. And you see those structures carved into the wall way off in the distance back there, which I do wonder if we are going to be able to traverse this entire valley here, this entire canyon, and get all the way up there. Just how big of a location are we dealing with here? But Andreas, a lot of striking characteristics of Jeddah that we've seen from previous gameplay trailers and just from across different Star Wars media.
You know, the Jeddah sequences in the past really struck a chord with me because it really reminded me of particular sequences from Rogue One. This shot in particular really rings a bell for me. It looks almost identical to the Catacombs of Cadera, which is the location where Saw Gerrera was hiding out in Rogue One. And I know this is a bit different. However, it looks very much influenced by the Catacombs of Cadera. It is that stone wall facade, the building that is almost carved into the canyons of Jeddah here. And it makes me wonder if, since just given the whole time frame here, if there is going to be any potential run-in with Saw Gerrera while he is getting set up on Jeddah. So this is something that I am particularly going to be keeping my eye out for as we make our way through the story of Jedi Survivor, and it's something that I'm particularly excited to find out. Nick, this looks like a very familiar scene, right?
Yeah, this is just a scene we've seen in the past of Cal talking to Seer. Now, there are future segments in this trailer of Seer being featured with Cal, and we'll get to those in a little bit, and they're a lot more important than this sequence. This sequence here doesn't really provide us much. We just know they're talking in some sort of rocky formation. Looks like perhaps a cave of some sort. But we'll get to Seer in just a little bit because we found something really important. Now, this next sequence we want to talk about is Coruscant. We finally see some more Coruscant. This looks very similar to the location from the previous gameplay trailer where we saw Bode and Cal teaming up to take on some stormtroopers and take them down. This looks like almost the exact same hallway or corridor. If you take a look, there's that Arbesh sign again to the left that translates to soda. And Andreas, your favorite feature of that is right there in the background that we saw from that previous trailer.
Yeah, you know that I love this feature. I'm talking about the doors all the way in the back. It is that signature look, almost identical to the front doors of the Outlander Club in the Escuru district of Coruscant that we saw, of course, at the beginning of episode 2. This is one of the trademark looks of the prequel trilogy when we're talking about Coruscant, and it's just another reminder that our developer friends over at Respawn really did their homework and made sure to pack details into this world to make it really feel like Coruscant. And just from this one alleyway, I am getting so many details that transport me straight to Coruscant, so job well done to the devs over at Respawn. I love this feature. It's one of my favorite in the trailers so far. Now, Nick, this is a very familiar creature, isn't it? This is something that we have seen from the extended preview from IGN, right?
Yes, it is. This is the Toronto shell that Cal points out when he first crash lands on the planet of Kobo. Here we see Cal up close and personal with BD with the Toronto shell. This is actually a sequence from the gameplay preview or the preview event that we were graciously invited to by both EA Star Wars and Respawn. So this sequence right here we know takes place early on in the game on Kobo. This is when you approach the Toronto shell, which I think this is pretty self-explanatory since we all know that you are headed in that direction. That was seen in the IGN gameplay, the first 9 minutes, where it says that you will be headed in that direction towards the Toronto shell. And here we see BD have perhaps a little too close of an interaction with the Toronto shell, but thankfully he is able to save himself from certain destruction with a little jetpack that none of us knew he had, and I don't even think Cal knew he had, which was really cool. It provides a cool, fun little interaction between Cal and BD, just a great way to kick off the events on Kobo. So this definitely happens early on because, Andres, you and I got to experience this right away. We got to see this for ourselves at the preview event, so that was really cool to see this in this trailer.
Yeah, it is. I just love this little BD jetpack here. It just makes BD that much more awesome. And I am wondering if at some point in the game we can wear BD on our back and he can propel us with his jetpack and we can fly around as Cal Kestis. And I'm pretty sure that's not a feature in this game, but if it is, that would be pretty cool. Now, this next scene here, we're seeing Cal wall running, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks kind of like a Lambda class Imperial shuttle in the back, right?
Yeah, it really does. That's a great catch. It looks like up there crashed on the ridge is a Lambda class shuttle, or at least some sort of Imperial shuttle. It could be a Sentinel class shuttle, but it definitely has the characteristics, the longer cockpit of that Lambda class shuttle. Now, Andreas, just given the overall characteristics of this environment here in the topography, I think we're actually looking at a sequence on Kobo. Yes, I know the weather doesn't match previous sequences that we've seen of Kobo, but we do know we will be returning to Kobo multiple times throughout the game, and there is the potential for the planet to always look different and change each time we visit. We know that we will be coming back multiple times, so I believe we're looking at a sequence here where the Imperials have had enough of whatever is going on, whatever perhaps the Bedlam Raiders are doing on the planet of Kobo, and in traditional Imperial way, they are going full scorched earth.
I am wondering what shot down this shuttle. The fire is still roaring on here, so it looks like it was recently shot down. It definitely does lead me to believe that there is a massive standoff between the Imperials and Cal and his friends. And I am wondering if this is a overall shift at some point in the story where the Empire does start to close its fist around Kobo and really assert their dominance in the region. I love this shot here for many reasons. One, it just looks cool because of the overall ambiance with the fire in the background. Two, Cal going from this wall run into a aerial strike here, this overhead strike, which does dismember a regular stormtrooper. I know a lot of people were wondering if dismemberment was reserved for the scout troopers in this game, but this is just another confirmation that Cal doesn't care who you are. You can be a scout trooper, you can be a Mogu, you can be a stormtrooper. He will cut your arms and legs off all the same. It does not make any difference to Cal. He's out here dishing out dismemberment and handicap placards, right, Nick?
Cal's been taking arms and taking legs since day one.
Yes, he has. Now here we see Cal in what I think is going to be Jeddah, just from the rock structures in the background, but I'm not 100% sure just because of the framing of this shot. We don't really get a great look at the background. It's also kind of blurred out. What is in the forefront here is Cal looking at a hologrammed individual. And guys, for the life of me, no matter how many times I look at this frame, I cannot say with 100% certainty who this hologrammed individual is. Nick, do you have any idea who this could be?
No, and it really hurts my heart because we here at Lunar Squadron really pride ourselves on being able to dig deep and do the research into the things that most people can't find, but just the angle of this shot, we just can't tell who it is. We don't even know where to begin trying to figure out who this is. You know, perhaps he's talking to someone who he's helping within an early stage of a rebellion against the Empire, or maybe it's an old hologram of Seer when she still had hair. Like, I'm not entirely sure, because I could see an argument for that. I really am not quite sure who we're looking at. And like you said, you know, this does look very similar to Jeddah, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this sequence is taking place on Kobo, just because they share some similar, you know, characteristics, but we're not able to tell for sure just because of the angle of the shot and how closed off it is, where exactly we're located here.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you pointed that out about it potentially being Seer, because at first I thought this was Seer just based on how the hologram individual is standing, their overall posture. There's something about the silhouette, but then, like you said, Nick, I did notice that this person appears to have hair, so maybe it is a past recording of Seer. I don't know. I would like to know what all of you think in the comments down below, so please let us know who you think this hologrammed individual is. I'm very interested to see what some of your guesses are, because again, Nick and I only like to confirm things when we're sure 100% without a doubt, and it's just kind of hard to say from these angles that we do have here. Now, moving along, and speaking of places that could potentially be Jeddah, Nick, we have a strong suspicion that this is Jeddah, this very cool speeder chase here. Not really the same environment as the speeder chase on Endor, but just having a speeder chase with a scout trooper really takes me back to the original trilogy.
Yeah, you would be hard-pressed to convince me that this is anywhere but Jeddah, and that this would be like on Kobo, for example. This, again, shares the exact same topography, that deserty environment, the same rocks, the same overall look and sky of what we've seen of Jeddah from Rogue One and other Star Wars media. You couldn't convince me that this isn't Jeddah based off what we've seen in the past. And we see over there in front of Cal to the left, we actually see Bode on a different speeder bike. So Bode will be included in the speeder bike chase. And I gotta say, this sequence is incredibly cool. We get to see Cal clashing with a scout trooper with a saber before ultimately throwing him up to get hit and ran over by a TIE fighter. That is incredibly inventive, innovative, and creative from Cal. Just finding a new way to punish these Imperials. Just a really cool sequence. Just kind of provides more evidence into that more cinematic approach that Respawn is taking with Jedi Survivor, something that we've complimented them for in the past. So really love this. This reminded me something of what you would see from, you know, one of those Sony exclusives, the very, very cinematic experiences, those exclusive games. So this sequence was one of my favorites from this trailer. I absolutely love this sequence.
Me too, Nick. And what I love the most is that even though Cal has completely disarmed this scout trooper here, he no longer has his weapon, and Cal really could just slash this guy with his lightsaber. He chooses to torment this scout trooper and levitate him with the Force so that he gets hit by his own kind, thus taking out, or likely taking out, a TIE fighter in the process. So just very inventive from Cal. We love to see his new methods of torture when it comes to facing up against the Empire. Now, this is a shot that we've seen before. Cal on Coruscant in the patrol ship. We actually get a new angle of the patrol ship coming up next, and this is one of my favorite shots from this trailer. super ominous shot of what used to be the Jedi Temple, but now you'd be hard pressed to find any Jedi around here, right, Nick?
Except for the one that's in the police patrol ship right now, who's right in front of the Jedi Temple. But
That's a great great point.
Other than that, I completely agree with you. No, but yes, I again, this is one of my other favorite shots from this, because ever since the whole Imperial Coruscant stuff has started to prop back up in Star Wars media, especially in Andor and other shows, I have been dying to see the Imperial Palace, finally see it and not just read about it, because it has such a cool backstory. Like you said, this was the Jedi Temple, but after the fall of the Jedi, Palpatine, as one last, middle finger to the Jedi Order from the Sith, actually turns it into his own personal residence, his own personal palace. So it's almost like he's dunking, he's strutting all over the Jedi here. It just really provides more of that, the gravitas that the Sith carry themselves in. So really, really excited to see this shot in Jedi Survivor, even if it means we're not going to the temple, which clearly we're going to the underworld's portion of Coruscant, but just to see it is just really cool. It's just nice to finally see it. We've read about it so much, and I've been so interested in learning more about it and learning more about Imperial occupied Coruscant, and I've just been dying to see the Jedi Temple during this era. So I really appreciated this shot, and I'm so excited it's in the game.
Yeah, it's a really almost shocking image, seeing the Imperial banners draped across the Jedi Temple. Very reminiscent of Nazi-occupied Paris, the way that Nazi banners were draped across the Eiffel Tower. It reminds me of that. So just a kind of one of those ominous shots that really seeps in the reality of what the Empire is doing with their oppression throughout the galaxy, and that goes to even the brightest beacons of light that existed before the Empire's rule. And speaking of the Empire's rule, here is a great shot, a badass shot of a few stormtroopers parading their way through Coruscant. And this looks like it is one of the more explorable areas that Stig has indicated as of today that we are going to be able to explore around Coruscant. This, I am willing to bet, is one of the areas that we will be able to explore around. I'm mainly saying this because if you look to the left, you can see that there is a workbench here. So I think I can take that as confirmation that you will be able to run around this area, right?
Yeah, this definitely looks like one of the more open, explorable areas, and that definitely does look like a workbench there on the left. That's a great catch, because when I saw the sequence, I was more focused on the stormtrooper and the scout trooper. We see a stormtrooper officer leading a group of other scout troopers and stormtroopers. You can tell because he's wearing the red pauldron, and that was typical of the officers in the Imperial Corps, and just all of the Imperial presence around Coruscant. It makes me wonder, when you are running around Coruscant, how much of a pain in the ass is that going to be? Are they going to recognize Cal? Will Cal be able to blend in? Where that underworld police armor from the previous trailer comes into play here? Will Cal be able to go, undercover here and not have to deal with the Imperial presence? Or will you be literally fighting your way through the streets of Coruscant just to survive? It's just something I'm really interested in, excited to find out in just a short few weeks.
One thing I'm also curious about on that same vein, Nick, is, are you going to have the choice to sneak by Imperial presence throughout Coruscant, or are you going to have to confront forces like this head on? I'm wondering if there is any sort of stealth mechanic in this game when it comes to the Coruscant areas, because as you know, and as you've referred to, Nick, we're expecting a high degree of hostility on Coruscant, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the heart of the Imperial giant that the Empire. It's the heart of the Empire. It is the capital of the Empire. Absolutely expecting a heavy, strong Imperial presence here during every sequence that we have on Coruscant.
Now, moving on along here to the next shot of this trailer, we do see Marin Grease and our new friend Bode Akuna aboard the Stinger Mantis. I do think this is the first time that we are seeing Marin and Grease back together on the Stinger Mantis, so pretty cool moment here, and along with our new friend Bode. Now, Nick, just kind of looking outside the cockpit here, what do we think we're looking at? It's kind of hard to tell, but any guesses?
It looks like we're docked at some sort of location or ship. If you take a look out the windows, there's kind of this metallic thing that they're very up close and personal with. they're definitely not flying in open space. There is definitely something right there in front of them. They're definitely landed. They're definitely docked somewhere, and I can't entirely tell where we're dealing with at all. Just that there is something out there. So who knows? Anyone's guesses at this point.
Yep, I definitely am seeing those metallic features. Let us know in the comments down below where you think the Stinger Mantis is positioned in this point. Is it a point of interest, or are we just looking at a cool shot of the crew aboard the cockpit? I know Marin looks very pensive here. Looks almost ominously off into the distance. I'm wondering what is going on. Perhaps worrying about Cal, wherever Cal may be at this point. And speaking of Cal, we do see the next shot is of Cal in the background, inquisitively looking at a new droid. Well, new to all of you. Nick and I actually got the opportunity to interact with this droid in the demo, and it was a pleasure, to say the least. A very comedic and interesting droid, to say the least, right, Nick?
Yes, a very, very fun droid to be around. A very important droid to the overall story of Jedi Survivor, which I'm sure many of you can guess, because this droid is holding that very, very special ancient device that everyone is trying to get their hands on. So this is actually a very important sequence in the story early on. We see Cal right here in front of the saloon in Rambler's Reach on Kobo. And Andreas, that is all I think I am going to say about this sequence. So it's very important.
Yes, it is. And just to remind all of you, this ancient device is that device that was used to open up Jedi chambers. We saw the ancient device being used in the IGN early access preview, the IGN first look gameplay of the Jedi chambers. We saw that Cal used this ancient device to open a Jedi chamber. So this is just a very cool overlap, and I just want to point out some of the more ornate and gold features in the droid here, suggesting that this may be a droid from the High Republic. I'm not going to confirm anything or say anything further on that, but just food for thought for all of you. Now, going on to the next shot, I love this shot, Nick, because it shows us the Cantina before the Cantina that we see from the early access gameplay, where here it looks pretty run down. You can see all the way in the back. There's no droid DJ. There's not really much life in the Cantina here. It's just Cal and Bode alone. However, as we do see in the early access gameplay, that this Cantina is upgradable, and that the relationships that you form throughout the Rambler's Reach area will serve to upgrade Grease's Cantina, even including a DJ. And it's just another testament to replayability in this game. It's one of the reasons why I love this Cantina, because I do see myself spending hours and hours upgrading the Cantina to make it a cool place to be around. Nick, how cool is this shot?
Yeah, I'm really happy you pointed all that out, because that's exactly what I took away from this, was just how empty it was, how lacking of life. There's no one in there. It's completely empty. There's no DJ droid. It's looking rather run down. And for those of you who have seen our early access gameplay, you will remember that there was a DJ who was popping off. There were strobe lights and music, and there were people. It was very lively, talking, conversations, loud, and that's just not going on here. So again, you'll just see as you continue on your journey as Cal through Kobo and through Jedi Survivor, just how more lively and more populated and fun the Cantina is going to become across your journey. So again, replayability, just reasons to come back to Kobo. Really excited about that.
And one of the reasons not to come back to Kobo is the Rancor. If you're interested in seeing more of the Rancor, we talked all about our experience fighting this Rancor in the early access demo that Nick and I did play. We spent a good part of an hour, maybe 45 minutes, fighting this Rancor, and it was very challenging, to say the least. As you can see, I do want to point out one detail here. Nick, there is a certain item that you want to get behind this Rancor. You're not just fighting this Rancor for sport, right?
No, absolutely not. That is one of the items that you will be able to pick up. We see it in some of the other early access gameplay footage where you pick up this shard, and it provides a health essence. So it's just more stuff to help you upgrade Cal and just help you along your way in your journey. But yes, I would like to actually come back and fight the Rancor for sport, because I had so much fun fighting this Rancor in our early access event. So really excited to just do it for myself when I get my hands on this game, and I'm really excited for all of you to experience this, because I think this is one of the shining moments of Kobo, and I think it's something that the team at Respawn are very, very proud of. And so as we continue, we get to see the Rancor. We get to see another shot here of Grease, Marin, and BD on the Stinger Mantis as it opens up, and presumably Cal is outside. We don't see Cal in the shot, just a very cinematic shot. Nothing too special to take from this sequence here. And then we go back to what we believe again to be on Jeddah. I know a lot of people are thinking this is either Korriban or Morban from the colors of the sand and the overall look. But guys, I just don't think any of the evidence suggests that we are dealing with either of those planets, or it's the same planet, just different names. We are dealing with Jeddah. If you take a look at the rock formations, it matches the other stuff that we've seen of the evidence of Jeddah. It is in that sandstorm. Again, we believe there's strong evidence to suggest from the previous gameplay trailer that sandstorm is taking place on Jeddah. I know we keep saying it, but we just really want to reiterate how much evidence we have that we are dealing with Jeddah in Jedi Survivor, just from all of the gameplay trailers. There really is. They're laying a lot of breadcrumbs throughout their gameplay trailers, and we just want to make sure you guys are all aware of this, because we think this is a really cool planet to explore, has a lot of potential, and Andreas, a lot of potential to run into apparently Imperial ATSTs.
Yeah, we can see that Cal is doing a really cool side flip. As you were talking, I was kind of admiring the vertical that Cal is getting here with his side flip here to dodge the blaster fire from this ATST. And then Cal does make his way to the top of the ATST, and presumably what is the finishing move for it. And one thing that I am absolutely loving here is the detail of being able to see the ATST driver realize the moment that he screwed up when he started shooting at Cal Kestis here. Cal obviously is going to open up the hatch of this ATST, and he's not taking any prisoners here. He is going to launch this ATST driver through the roof and into the sandstorm, and he's gonna wake up with a sore back, huh?
I don't think he's waking up, Andreas, but I will say that Cal has a really big problem, an obsession, if you will, of launching Imperial soldiers and troops into the air when he could just deal with them. He has an addiction, a fascination with doing this for some reason, because this is the second time in just this trailer we've seen him do something just like this. So I don't know what's going on with Cal, but he really likes force launching people into the air. But as we continue, we get this cool sequence, this cool cinematic sequence of a team-up fight where Cal and Marin are taking down an Imperial security droid. And Andreas, just some more evidence we're dealing with Jeddah here. What's that right there in the background?
Yep, we're looking at a very similar statue of a Jedi. Like I said, guys, this is a trademark feature of Jeddah, and yet another beating reminder that we are going to Jeddah in this game. And another thing that I do want to point out is if you look at the hieroglyphics carved into the what appears to be some sort of a banister or almost a walkway here, you can see that this looks kind of like Domabesh. Again, there's a bit of motion blur here, and it's a bit unclear because it's in the background. The foreground's really focusing on Cal here. But I do think that is Domabesh etched into the walls, which is a hallmark feature that we did see in the center of Jeddah City in Rogue One. So I do think that this is conclusively going to be Jeddah in this sequence. Also, notably, I want you guys to take note of almost every time that we do see Cal and Marin playing together in the companion features that they are located on Jeddah, so I am wondering if this is the sequence of the game where you will be playing with Marin as a companion character, because I think we've only seen Marin companion gameplay on Jeddah thus far. I don't know if this means that you're going to be limited to only playing with Marin as a companion on Jeddah, but just an observation nonetheless.
That is a really good observation, that up to this point from all of the gameplay trailers, every time we've seen Marin and Cal together, it is on what we believe to be the planet of Jeddah in terms of companion gameplay. We've never seen them team up on what we believe to be other planets in Jedi Survivor, so that's a really good call out. And as we continue, some more of that companion gameplay, again, the overall topography, the look of the environment, based off of what they're fighting here, because we speculated this machine to be involved in a Jeddah sequence from our Jeddah breakdown from the previous gameplay trailer, because we finally get a look at whatever this machine is that was attempting to stab Cal as he and Marin were wall running from the previous gameplay trailer, and we get to see this cool team up of Cal using his force and Marin using her magic to take on this mysterious machine. So that was really cool. It's cool to see them blending the magic and blending the force together in combat. I thought this was a really cool sequence.
Yeah, you can see all of the items that are influenced by Marin's magic are illuminated, almost highlighted in that bright green color here. So it is very cool. I love these effects here as Cal and Marin are teaming up to take down whatever the hell this thing is, as it does look pretty aggressive. And again, those carvings in the back of the wall behind Cal and Marin just look like that hallmark Jeddah vibe in the back. And again, yet another sequence of companion gameplay between Cal and Marin on what we believe to be Jeddah in this game. Now, this appears to be a newer area. I don't think we've seen this area before, right, Nick?
Actually, I do believe we have seen this location before. I believe we are dealing with the same location that we saw from the preview out of IGN, where they were talking about that shattered moon that you see from the planet of Kobo. You can see it up there in space, where something happened to that moon, and it is almost completely destroyed. There are remnants of it scattered all about, and if you take a look outside the window, you will see all of those rocks and those remnants. And if I had to guess, that planet way out there in the distance, because this is clearly taking place in space, I would have to guess that is Kobo way out there in the distance, or a planet within the Kobo system, wherever Kobo is located. But to me, this is clearly the shattered moon from that IGN preview of Jedi Survivor. We know that there is a Bedlam Raider presence on this location from that preview, and here we see Cal and Rayvis showdown. They're going head to head. This is going to be an incredibly difficult boss fight, just based off what we know about Jedi in Star Wars. They are damn near impossible to kill. They live for thousands of years. They're damn near immortal. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it is going to be very stressful. And what is cool about this sequence of gameplay, Andreas, as we progress through, there's a couple things actually I want to point out first. If you take a look out the window, you will see what appears to be some platforming elements. You'll see that orange balloon out there that we saw on Kobo that Cal was able to grapple from. It looks like there's some wall running platforms or a area for Cal to grab onto, that white structure with kind of the gray grading out there. It looks like an area where Cal will be able to go outside and kind of platform and jump around out there. So I'm very interested to see what that's about. But as we continue here with the combat, we will see some actual gameplay, not just that arena area from the IGN stuff that they made for them. We actually get to see some legit cross-guard saber combat. We see Cal running up, and he attempts to do this very interesting double kick to take down Ravis, and it just simply doesn't work. That's not going to work against the Jedi. I appreciate Cal for trying and respect him for it, but clearly this stance doesn't look like it's going to be very effective against the Jedi, because he's so damn strong.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this further later on, but Rayvis looks like he's an absolute pain in the ass to fight against. Looks like he's using this giant honeycomb-like mace-looking weapon that he's whipping Cal with. He's not even flinching when he gets kicked by Cal with both feet, so it just looks like he's going to be a pain in the ass to fight up against, and I can't wait to be frustrated by this fight. Some other details that I do quickly want to point out before we move on to the next sequence here. I do want to point out that that almost back-to-tank looking feature in the back left side of the screen. This looks almost identical to features that we have seen in the architecture in the back-to-tank room that we've seen in trailers past. The gold ornate features on the bottom of the back-to-tank are nearly identical to those in the back-to-tank chamber room. And if we do look at the floor, it is very similar gold trimmed highlights on the panels on the floor here. So I'm not saying that this is the same area as the area from the back-to-tank sequence. I do think that that's distinctly a different area in the game. This looks to be a different area, but a very similar architecture, and it does make me think if these ornate and gilded areas in the game are remnants of the High Republic. I'm wondering if there's some association there between these gold features that we saw in the back-to-tank room and this station or base that we are seeing on the fractured moon. And Nick, I just want to point out also how cool it is that we are going to have a boss battle with Rayvis on the moon, and that Cal is going to be jumping around and platforming in space with a spacesuit or something, or with BD on his back propelling around. I don't know.
Yeah, that sequence clearly looks like it's going to take place outside, so I'm so interested to know what that is all about out there, how exactly that's going to go down. And to me, Andreas, pointing out this architecture, it just proves to me that this is taking place within the same system as Kobo, or where Kobo is located, and that this is a moon of Kobo, because whatever civilization populated this system clearly had a certain architecture structure or system. So to me, that just points that we're dealing with the same system here. That's my big takeaway. And then as we continue, this is really cool. We get to see droidicas finally. We know they're in the game. We know IGN has talked about it in their preview and in articles, but we've never gotten to see them in the game. And we finally get to see droidicas, and we see them on some sort of separatist ship. I wonder if this is in the core ship on Kobo or a separate separatist ship. But this is clearly, if you've watched The Phantom Menace, if you've watched The Clone Wars, if you've seen anything from the prequel era, this is clearly a separatist ship that we are on. It is identical in its characteristics, and we get to see some cool gameplay of Cal taking down some droidicas.
Yeah, I just love the way that you can see the lightsaber cut through this droidica like it is butter here. Just a cool animation. I love the way that the lightsaber really tracks a clean path through that droidica, and that it's just cut clean in half here. And you could see the droidica in the back just kind of freaks out at the sight of his droidica friend getting chopped into pieces by Cal. He's like, whoa, what are you doing to my friend? He was just trying to say hi, and now you've killed him. What are you doing? And I believe that this droidica in the back is going to share much of the same fate, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. The one thing I do want to point out real quick before we move on is we see Cal do that charged up saber throw with the crossguard saber that we saw from that combat preview, but he doesn't charge it up as long this time. So it looks like you'll be able to do it much quickly. Like you'll be able to do it quicker. You'll be able to decide when to release it, how much you want to charge it up. So, and that will probably determine how much damage it is able to do. So that is just one thing I noticed from the sequence, was how fast the saber throw was compared to the combat preview that we previously saw with this ability.
Now, coming up next is a sequence that we've seen before, but this time we're seeing it from a brand new angle. And while that might not seem initially important, it is monumentally important, because this is a sequence where we have seen Cal talking to Seer on what we believe to be Jeddah. And I think that this angle now confirms that this is Jeddah, because if you look at the doorway in the back, you can see the gold hieroglyphics that we have been pointing out throughout this trailer thus far, and we saw it in the last trailer as well. This is what appears to be Domabesh, which, guys, if you've been paying attention, you know Domabesh was invented for Rogue One to be placed specifically in Jeddah, and while it has featured in other planets, including Seleucami, this is a ancient language which is a trademark of Jeddah, And we just think that this is yet another confirmation that we are going to be seeing Jedha in this game, but more specifically for the purposes of this scene, that Seer will be on Jedha. And it again plays into our theory that we think that Seer went to Jedha because this is a place where Jedi go to really find themselves and identify and flesh out their relationship with the Force. And we believe that this is going to be a state upon which we find Seer in this game.
Yeah, it looks like she is maintaining some sort of Jedi archives based off what we've seen from previous gameplay trailers on the planet of Jeddah. We had, again, like you said, presumed that that was going to be taking place on the planet of Jeddah. It just made a lot of sense, and we believe that Doma Besh there in that doorway on that door frame outright confirms it. So very excited to see that. Now, as we continue, we have just a little bit more to go. This is a really important sequence from this trailer. It looks like it's going to be an incredibly important sequence in this game. We see our High Republic friend make an appearance, and we see Cal there, and they are doing that kind of Rey, Kylo force pull of that ancient device. They are using the Force to fight over that ancient device. In the background, we see that same droid that we saw on Rambler's Reach, or in Rambler's Reach on Kobo, what we presume to be the same droid. Could be a different droid, but definitely the same design. And then we see BD just up there hanging out, watching this whole thing going on. He's not really helping very much, but you know, BD just is there to watch. But we see the High Republic individual and Cal fighting over the ancient device. And Andreas, I believe we might actually be able to tell where this showdown is located, because as you continue, the camera angle actually shifts to be in front of the High Republic guy, looking towards the High Republic guy. And in the background, if you take a look to the right, you'll see this kind of like tower structure with circles on it. It's like a cylindrical. It almost looks like a spring of some sort. You'll see that with the lights on it. There's white lights on it. If you go back to that sequence with the droidekas on the Separatist ship, if you take a look on the walls behind them, you see the exact same structures. So to me, Andreas, if I had to guess based off of the look of the room that High Republic guy is in with Cal and that structure in the background, to me, this looks like this is taking place on this same Separatist ship or on a Separatist ship of some sort, perhaps the Crest Core ship. But I do think this is taking place within some sort of Separatist ship.
Yeah, this is really fascinating stuff, guys, because we have seen that Cal does have the ancient device, because we're seeing that in this trailer, and we've also seen in previous trailers that the High Republic Jedi friend ends up with this ancient device. And I think what we're seeing right now is the moment where he does seize that device from Cal. I think he's going to come away from this interaction with that device, and I'm really curious to know what leads them to face off in this Separatist looking ship here, now that we do have those architectural features in the background, which really do suggest that we are on that Separatist ship. And I'm wondering what brings us here. Why is this droid strapped up here in almost like a torturing position? And why is BD just standing by and looking as all of this is happening and not really doing anything about it? All of these questions that I'm dying to have answered. Right, Nick?
Yeah, and can I just point one thing out that I noticed while we're talking about this? It looks like behind Cal that this is opened up, and it looks like there's rock formations out there, like off in the distance, and it looks like we're on Kobo. I have a feeling this is the downed Separatist ship. It looks like this is opened up to the outside, like it's destroyed, kind of out, facing outwards. And I know from the first gameplay trailer, there was a sequence at the very end of it, from the Game Awards trailer, that it's taking place at a very similar time of night as this. It looks almost identical to this sequence, and Cal is coming up on the core ship at the end of that trailer in the same sequence. So wondering if that is the same sequence, but it does look like that is a damaged portion of the ship that is opening up into what I would presume to be Kobo, and what I would presume to be from that downed core ship. Just something I just noticed as we were talking through this.
Yeah, all great points, and we'll find out soon enough. And speaking of Kobo, guys, this is yet another shot of Kobo as we are seeing the Stinger Mantis blaze on by here in the background. This is a shot that I'm pretty sure that we saw when we were playing through our demo, so it looks very familiar to me. And I think this next shot is also on Kobo as well, right, Nick? As we are facing up against this very interesting looking person holding a freaking lightsaber. What's up with that?
Yep, another mysterious individual fighting Cal with a lightsaber that is clearly not the High Republic individual. We saw this from some of the previous gameplay trailers, wearing a very similar outfit, just a little different in the colors. Blue and gold, a lot of blue and gold. And if you remember, we've pointed out previously that we've seen a lot of this blue and gold trim architecture around the planet of Kobo. So if I had to guess, this sequence is also taking place on Kobo. And just to purely speculate about what is going on here, I have a feeling that these individuals are Bedlam Raiders, part of the Bedlam Raiders, and I just wonder if maybe, since we know that Rayvis and the High Republic guy will be teaming up, at least in some sort, because we see it from that gameplay trailer where they're together, they're working together, I just wonder if there is some way the High Republic guy was able to hook them up, maybe, with some lightsabers. Like, how else would they have gotten their hands on lightsabers? It's not like they're just laying around Kobo or laying around everywhere. So really interested to find out how these guys get these sabers. But if I had to guess, just based on what we know about this location and pure speculation, these are probably Bedlam Raiders, but I'm not entirely sure. It's just speculation at this point.
Yeah, it is really hard to tell. One thing that I am noticing here is that this is not your run-of-the-mill lightsaber. This is a very ornate lightsaber. Looks like it's almost gilded with gold features near the emitters. This is a double-bladed lightsaber. I am wondering if this is a lightsaber more reminiscent of the High Republic, and again, we are seeing these gold-trimmed features on the robe here, or on the outfit that this individual is wearing. It does make me wonder if he has some sort of affiliation to the High Republic Jedi, and if he is being retrofitted by the High Republic garb here. So just one thing to keep in mind. It's one thing that I'm certainly wondering as I'm seeing this sequence play out, because I have no idea who this guy is. I don't think it's some Jedi. I kind of agree with you, Nick. I think this is a Bedlam Raider who might have gotten this lightsaber from someone in the High Republic. Who knows who it could be? And here is another very cool shot here. This is Cal teaming up with Bode to beat the absolute pulp out of another poor scout trooper. Nick, we've seen this location before, right?
Yes, this definitely looks like one of those arrays from Kobo. You could see the laser being fired off from the dish right there. And if you, as the camera pans around, you will see that core ship off in the distance that we know is on Kobo. This, if I was going to guess, is that lower structure we saw from the previous gameplay trailer. We know that there was the one structure up in the clouds, and then there was another structure. You could see the laser being fired through the clouds. If I had to guess, this is the lower structure, just because given where that core ship is at, unless this is a core ship in the sky, like there's another core ship where they get it off the ground. If I had to guess, this is the one on the ground. But again, here is Kobo. It is that structure, or one of those structures, firing whatever that laser is towards whatever that target is. But as we continue, as the trailer wraps up, these are the last final sequences of this trailer, and I just want to progress through this quickly. We see Cal doing battle with Rayvis. We see that regen with the Gendai that we know they're capable of doing. It looks like his arm is starting to regrow. He's shooting at Cal now instead of using just the mace. He has a gun he's using to fire at him. As Cal's deflecting it with the crossguard. Again, we see that arm. He's damaged. His armor's kind of missing. To me, Andreas, from what we've seen and then what we see from this next sequence, I kind of have an argument here to present. You see Cal going through and doing what you would believe to be some sort of finishing move. He strikes, he slashes his leg, he slashes him in the back, and then he does one more final slash. This would be a finishing move on most people. Rayvis doesn't even flinch. He doesn't go to the ground. He just takes a step back. Like, it doesn't even bother him. And we see that regen from the previous shot. To me, Andreas, if I had to guess, based off what we know about Gendai, we are looking at a very complicated boss fight, a very long boss fight, perhaps a boss fight with multiple health bars. That would just be perfect. It would be a perfect match to have a multiple health bar boss battle that we know games like to do with a species like the Gendai. I have a feeling we're going to be in this room for a while. We're going to have to take down multiple Rayvis health bars if I had to guess. This is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with, but at the same time, it's going to be a lot of fun because of how challenging it's going to be.
Yeah, I cannot wait to take Rayvis down because this does look like one of those fights that you are going to come away with your hands a little bit clammy. You're going to be clutching onto the controller for far too long, and you're just going to take a deep sigh of relief when you finally kill this Gendai, because he does look like, to use your words, Nick, a pain in the ass to fight. And one final detail that I do want to point out is, again, we do see those orange floating things that we've seen Cal jumping on in previous trailers in the cloudy areas of Kobo. Again, we are seeing these now floating in space, which Cal space traversal confirmed. I'm very curious about this specifically. I want to know how the hell Cal is able to traverse around space. Is he going to be floating around like Leia, looking like Mary Poppins in The Last Jedi, or what's going to go on here?
I'm right there with you, dude. I am really interested to know what's going on with that outside space stuff. Like, is it maybe not outside? Is there some sort of force field or something keeping, like, creating some sort of atmosphere out there that we just can't see? But that's clearly space. Like, that is outside, that is space. So I'm just very interested to see how that is dealt with. And I'm a big space guy, so I see space, it gets me excited. So just really excited to see what happens there. But guys, that is where our final gameplay trailer for Jedi Survivor comes to an end. About 1 minute and 40-ish seconds into it, we are finally at the end. Let us know down below in the comments what your favorite sequence from this trailer is. We were taking a look around the internet, and a lot of people felt that this was their favorite trailer so far from both Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. This trailer got a lot of people excited, and I gotta say, we completely agree. There were a lot of exciting things throughout this trailer, a lot of things to be hyped for, as we are less than 3 weeks away now from the release of Jedi Survivor. We are in the end game truly now. We are so close, so let us know down below in the comments what your favorite part is. And like Andreas said, we stayed up all night waiting for this trailer because we don't live in Europe. We live in the United States, so it was the middle of the night when this came out. So we are very tired. So let us know down below in the comments if we might have missed any details. We really did our best to catch everything, but we're a little groggy at this time of day, so just let us know down below. But that is going to do it for us for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.